This is an article from the Reformed Presbyterian, Volume 2, published in May of 1838, entitled Declaration of the Principles of the Reformed Presbyterian Synod in Ireland on the Subject of Civil Government, adopted as an overture at its adjourned meeting, October 12, 1837. Number 1. God, the Supreme Governor, the fountain of all authority and power, hath declared his will in the constitution of human nature, and clearly revealed it in the Scriptures, that mankind should voluntarily associate together in civil society for their mutual help and protection, in subserviency to godliness and honesty. Civil society, which is thus an institution of God, is under law to him, as are all the individuals of whom it is composed. Bound to observe the law of nature, or moral law, to form definite civil laws in accordance with it, and to commit the administration of these to qualified rulers for the preservation of order, liberty, and religion. Civil government is the moral ordinance of God to promote his glory and man's welfare, to be regulated by the moral law, and commanding obedience for conscience' sake, only when erected and administered accordingly. Number 2. The law of nature, which defines the rights and duties of men in their individual and collective capacities, is fully ascertained in the revealed moral law, and its republication in the Scriptures is accompanied with the seals of its divine authority, imposing an indispensable obligation upon the individuals and communities to whom it is made known, to acknowledge and obey it. While the Christian system does not affect this obligation, otherwise than more clearly to reveal and more powerfully to enforce it. As the Scriptures reveal the will of God in regard to civil government, which is an ordinance of the law of nature, it is the duty of all communities enjoying divine revelation to frame their constitutions and enact their laws according to the certain moral dictates of this infallible standard, and to promote to legislative, judicial, and executive power none but those who possess a due measure of the qualifications which it prescribes. Number 3. The Scriptures, moreover, declare that Jesus Christ, as mediator, is exalted to the highest dignity and invested with universal authority, not only in ruling in and over all the members of his mystical body as their living head and lawgiver, but governing all creatures without exception, and all their actions for his own glory and the salvation of his elect, as head over all things of the church, that he is King of kings and of nations, as well as King of saints, that men in every possible relation and condition are under obligation to subserve his gracious purposes according to his law, and that all civil institutions are put under him who is head of all principality and power. Civil rulers in a Christian land, whether supreme or subordinate, whether in the legislative, judicial, or executive department, or, which is the same thing, the nation as such exercising its authority through them, should acknowledge the divine origin and character of the Scriptures of the Old and New Testaments, the perpetual obligation of the moral law, and the universal headship of Jesus Christ. They should recognize the Word of God as the supreme standard of government, submit to the scepter of Emmanuel, and legislate and administer in subserviency to the interests of his kingdom, in order to secure the unity, liberty, peace, and comfort of the nation. Number 4. The civil ruler is to regard the religion of Jesus Christ as the most powerful of those means by which good morals in general, genuine loyalty in particular, and individual and social welfare may be promoted, and he is also to view the Church of God as having a legitimate and strong claim upon his official care and influence, being under obligation to extend to it legal protection and support, preserving its liberties and powers, ordinances and laws, and providing by scriptural means for its purity and extension. Nor is he under less obligation to withhold legal protection and all favor whatsoever from the mysteries of paganism, the rites of Muhammad, the idolatry of Antichrist, and every other system of false worship. As a minister of God for good and a nursing father to the church, he is invested with authority, and it is his duty to ratify with civil sanctions subordinate standards of church fellowship that are agreeable to the Word of God, the distinct and independent jurisdiction of church officers and their faithful administration, and in his own province to excite, encourage, and cooperate with them in theirs, for the attainment of ends common to both. He is personally to profess and exemplify Christianity, and officially to give his power and strength to the prince of the kings of the earth. Number 5. It is also his province and duty to exercise his authority and influence in reforming the church when more or less corrupt, after the example of the godly princes of Judah, by removing all external impediments and encouraging all lawful efforts towards reformation, by giving decided countenance to those who are zealous for the honor of God and the church's purity, by interesting himself in the encouragement and support of a pious and faithful ministry, and by holding ineligible to the places of power and trust infidel, heretical, and immoral persons, and placing under civil restraints and disabilities all who are at once the enemies of the religion, fundamental laws, and liberties of the Commonwealth. Number 6. Important as is the province of the Christian magistrate or of the nation as such in relation to the doctrines, ordinances, and laws of Jesus Christ, no less important are the obligations which bind the members of the church to profess, support, and adorn the gospel. And while nations by their representatives are voluntarily, wisely, and liberally to apply the principle of a civil establishment to the true religion, and results highly advantageous may be expected to accrue, no less beneficial effects may be anticipated from the operation of the principle of private Christian benevolence on the part of a well-instructed and religious people. Number 7. Notwithstanding what has been stated concerning the exercise of civil authority in regard to the ecclesiastical persons and matters of religion, the civil ruler has no spiritual or ecclesiastical supremacy relative to doctrine or worship, discipline or government, has no authority to administer any gospel ordinance or direct or control its administration, and no power whatever over the officers or private members of the church, except in a civil respect, and as they are his subjects. And as Christians are not to attempt effecting a moral change in the state of the nations with the sword, and are not to endeavor to promote reformation but by any but the moral means competent to them, so civil rulers may not propagate the truth by carnal weapons, nor enforce religious uniformity by civil pains and penalties, nor are penal laws to be enacted and executed against any class of professors of religion, except as a necessary and just provision for the defense of true religion and genuine liberty, for the protection of the rights of the Church of Christ, and for the interests of a Christian or Reformed state from those whose creed and whose conduct are essentially hostile to both. Number 8. Scripturally qualified rulers do not bear the sword in vain, being not only for the praise of them that do well, but also for the punishment of evildoers. They are authorized guardians of the first as well as of the second table of the moral law, to sustain its authority, and faithfully apply its precepts in distinguishing what is morally right from what is morally wrong, chiefly in overt acts which have immediate reference either to the Almighty ruler or to civil society. But they are not to regard the judicial code contained in the Old Testament as formally binding them or their subjects, because some of its laws were exclusively adapted to the local circumstances and peculiar relations of the nation of Israel, and others sanctioned ceremonial institutions, and consequently those laws expired with such circumstances, relations, and institutions. Those judicial laws, however, which guarded the moral law so far as they are essentially moral, proceed upon general equity, are susceptible of application to all nations in all ages, being thus always necessary, proper, and advantageous, are obligatory, and are to be wisely and faithfully administered. Number 9. The obligation and warrant to restraint and punish gross breaches of the moral law and the ends to be served thereby are common to both tables, and are even more intimately connected with the first table, as it is the foundation of the second. And as morality and peace will not flourish where piety is not maintained, it is therefore the duty of the civil ruler to see that the violation of the moral law, in the open contempt of the being of God, in gross and public idolatry, in open blasphemy of the name of God, or in open profanation of the Sabbath, as well as injustice, licentiousness, and violence, be duly restrained as scandalizing to religion, and the Church of God as hurtful to the peace and good order of society, and as provoking the displeasure and rebukes of the Almighty against the nation.